Imagine you're running like a massive hotel back in the day.
Oh, you mean before electronic key cards?
Yeah, exactly. Before the plastic cards, you have this huge problem, right? Guests just keep walking off with their physical room keys.
Right, they just shove them in their pockets and check out.
They just leave town.
Yeah.
So, you do what any logical manager would do. You try to communicate.
You put up signs.
Right, polite little signs at the front desk.
Mm-hmm.
You train your staff to explicitly remind guests at check-in.
Maybe leave a little printed card on the pillow.
Yes. But nothing works. I mean, the keys just keep disappearing until you make one tiny, entirely non-human change.
Ah, the brass weight.
You attach a massive, heavy, obnoxious brass weight to the key, and suddenly the problem vanishes.
The guests actually return the keys.
Right. Today, we're doing a deep dive into why that simple piece of brass and the physical objects sitting in your office right now might actually have more management power than you do.
Yeah, that heavy key fob is just, it's one of the most elegant examples of a reality that modern business leaders completely overlook.
We really do go blind to it, don't we?
We do. We are so conditioned to think of management as, purely a social exercise. Like it's just about finding the right words.
With the right incentives.
Exactly, the right company culture. And because of that, we go completely blind to the physical world that is actively shaping our every move.
Which is exactly why we're so glad you're here with us today.
Mm.
Because whether you are an audience manager trying to figure out why your team is struggling,
Right.
or maybe you're a management student prepping for your first big leadership role, or just a professional trying to make sense of your own workplace, we are taking a deep dive into a stack of cutting-edge research to confront this.
Building on the foundational works of scholars like Paul Leonardi and Wanda Orlikowski.
Yes, to confront the invisible elephant in the boardroom, basically.
Yeah.
The concept called materiality.
Right. And by the time we wrap up this conversation, you're going to have two distinct new lenses for viewing your organization.
Okay, lay them out for us.
First, you'll see how materiality broadly, and I mean everything from the physical chair you're sitting in to digital software to the literal layout of a strategy document, how all of that fundamentally dictates leadership and strategy.
Wow, okay. And the second?
Second, you'll understand the inescapable interlinkage between human beings and material artifacts.
The boundaries are blurring, right?
Rapidly blurring. So driving real organizational change means realizing you can't just manage the humans. You have to alter the artifacts, the humans, or both in tandem.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure you, the listener, understand. We aren't just doing some tech review here.
No, not at all.
We aren't just talking about the latest software update from IT. We are talking about the very physical, tangible fabric of your daily work.
Yeah, and to do that, we have to start by dismantling a very pervasive illusion in business schools.
A mental organization thing.
Exactly. The illusion of the mental organization. Because if you pick up, like, a standard textbook, an organization is described almost exclusively in social and cognitive terms.
Like managers make decisions, they communicate visions.
Right. They negotiate relationships, they build cultures. The organization is just presented as a system of roles and rules and human interactions.
Which, I mean, to be fair, makes a company sound incredibly clean.
Oh, it sounds perfectly rational.
Right. It paints a picture of a business as just one giant continuous conversation. You draw some boxes on a whiteboard, you change the reporting lines, and boom, the company is reorganized.
But then Monday morning arrives.
Yeah, reality hits.
You step into the actual office and that whiteboard diagram just shatters because that purely social perspective completely ignores the fact that employees don't exist as floating brains.
They have bodies.
They work through physical bodies, bodies that get cold, bodies that get exhausted, bodies that need caffeine.
And they operate in physical spaces, too.
Exactly. Rooms whose size, layout, furniture, and acoustics actively dictate who talks to whom and how those interactions feel.
Looking at the source material here, the spectrum of what counts as materiality is just staggering to me. It's so much broader than I initially thought.
Oh, it covers everything.
Like physical artifacts. We're talking raw materials like cotton, CO2 emissions from a plant, or even nicotine.
Yeah, nicotine is a fascinating one. Think about how nicotine shaped the 20th century office.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, the physical addiction and the physical properties of smoke itself dictated architectural choices, time management.
Oh, smoke breaks.
Right. Informal social networks were literally built around the designated smoking area.
That's wild, but it makes total sense when you put it like that. And then the research lists human-made artifacts, right? Like the chair you were sitting in.
The open plan office layout.
Yeah, the stairs you climbed, the clothes you were required to wear, and then you have technological hard artifacts.
Like the physical servers, computers, phones, delivery trucks, power plants.
And technological soft artifacts, which I know we'll get into later, but things like email clients, PowerPoint, and ChatGPT.
Right. And the reason all of this is so easily ignored by leadership is precisely because it is omnipresent.
It's just always there.
Yeah, a chair attracts absolutely zero managerial attention until it breaks.
Or until it causes a massive problem.
Exactly. Like if its poor ergonomic design causes a massive spike in back pain across your entire customer service department.
Which leads to a surge in medical leave.
Right. The electrical grid is entirely invisible to a CEO's strategy until the power goes out.
And suddenly the whole social structure of the company just grinds to a halt.
Material arrangements become background scenery when they function smoothly. They really only become visible when they break down or obstruct human action.
Which brings us back to the hotel key fob. I really want to linger on this because it's such a perfect microcosm for the manager listening right now.
It really is.
The hotel tried the purely social and mental approach. Signs, training, verbal requests. And the guests just ignored the rules. The language completely failed.
It failed because it had to fight against a frictionless physical reality.
It's just too easy to steal a key.
It is incredibly easy to slip a small piece of metal into your pocket and forget about it. The guest's physical convenience heavily outweighed the hotel's social request.
But then they attached that heavy brass weight, and they fundamentally altered the physical calculation.
Yeah, because the fob was annoying. It ruined the line of your trousers.
It banged against your leg as you walked.
Right. Its sheer weight served as a constant physical reminder of the hotel. Returning the key suddenly became a much more convenient physical option than carrying it around all day.
Here is the thing that makes me look at my own company completely differently now. The formal rule doesn't actually change.
Not at all.
The guest was obligated to return the key before the brass weight, and they were obligated after. The social contract was identical.
What changed was the material arrangement through which that rule operated.
The material arrangement succeeded, where human language failed.
It altered the situation in which the human choice was made.
But let me push back on this a bit, because I can hear some managers bristling at the implication here. Are we saying the object forced the guest's hand?
That's a common reaction.
Like, are my employees just mindless pinballs bouncing off the bumpers of their physical environment? If we lean too hard into this, it feels a little deterministic, you know? Like human free will doesn't matter.
Yeah, the research anticipates that exact pushback. And it is crucial to clarify that this is not determinism.
Okay, good.
A highly motivated guest could absolutely still steal that heavy key. They could shove it in a backpack and walk away.
Right, the object doesn't literally delete human free will.
Exactly. But it would be a massive mistake for a manager to assume that only free will matters. The material object changes the landscape of possibilities.
It shifts the probabilities.
Yes, it makes the desired behavior the path of least resistance.
So when my team isn't adopting a new process, my instinct as a manager is usually to double down on social management.
Send more emails, right?
Send more emails, put on a firmer tone in the all-hands meeting, maybe I mandate a training seminar. But what you're saying is, the far more effective question is about the arrangement.
What in our physical or digital arrangement is currently making the bad behavior easy?
And what material tweak would make the good behavior frictionless?
You're hitting on the core mechanism there. And if a simple chunk of brass can solve a behavioral compliance issue, you have to extrapolate that up to the macro level.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What happens when materiality forms the very foundation of an entire global business strategy?
Okay, let's scale it all the way up.
Yeah.
The research talks about IKEA, right? The flat pack furniture model.
IKEA is the quintessential case study of materiality dictating strategy, rather than just serving as a logistical afterthought.
It's not just about boxes.
No. When you walk into an IKEA, or when you study their business model, you are looking at an empire built entirely around the physical properties of a flat, stackable cardboard box.
We really do tend to think of the flat pack as just a neat packaging trick to save on shipping.
Right, but the research points out that the material properties of that package, its flatness, its standardized dimensions, its stackability, that dictates literally everything else the company does.
Like the warehouse costs.
Exactly. The flatness dictates warehouse costs because you can fit an exponentially larger volume of product onto a standard wooden pallet.
And that physical density dictates the architectural layout of the store itself, doesn't it?
It does. It enables this showroom and warehouse model where customers walk through the stylized rooms and then physically retrieve the boxes themselves from the racks.
It totally dictates the division of labor. The company outsources the final physical assembly and the last mile transportation to the customer.
Yes. The customer uses their own physical energy and their own personal vehicle to complete the manufacturing process. The entire corporate strategy is a slave to the geometry of the flat box.
Which is an absolute triumph, obviously, for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right up until the board of directors decides they want to pivot.
Ah, yes. The circular economy pivot.
Let's say IKEA, or any massive furniture retailer, decides it wants to embrace the circular economy. They issue a press release, "We are going green. We will take back your used furniture, recycle it, resell it."
It sounds incredible in the boardroom.
Right, but it's just words.
It sounds progressive and flexible when it's just a press release. But then the strategy crashes headfirst into a literal physical wall.
Because a used sofa is large, it is heavy,
Mm.
and crucially, it is fully assembled.
A customer can't magically shrink a three-seater couch back into a flat, stackable box.
They just can't. And that means returning it requires a large truck.
It requires two human beings to lift it.
Yeah, and it has to travel backward through a global logistics network that was exclusively rigidly designed to push compact, flat packages outward.
The warehouse racks aren't sized for assembled couches. The delivery trucks aren't optimized for carrying a lot of empty air, which is basically what an assembled couch is.
So you cannot talk your way into sustainability. The CEO can give the most inspiring speech in the world about going green, but matter does not negotiate.
You can't negotiate with gravity or volume or the durability of particle board using language.
Materiality forces your strategy to face physical reality.
If you want a circular economy, you cannot just change your corporate values. You have to physically reorganize your store spaces to receive bulky items.
You have to hire bodies to physically inspect them.
You have to redesign your transportation fleets. A strategy only exists if the material infrastructure can carry it.
That is a harsh reality check. But let's shift gears, because I know we have listeners like consultants, software developers, audience managers who are thinking, okay, sure, couches are physical, warehouses are physical, but I work in the knowledge economy.
Right. I deal in ideas, data, and strategy. My world is immaterial.
Exactly. But the researchers push back hard on this distinction. Even our ideas are material.
The separation between physical work and knowledge work is largely an illusion. Management ideas become consequential precisely because they take material form.
We are talking about conceptual and written artifacts here.
Things like a SWOT analysis, a 5 forces model, a life cycle assessment, a university course syllabus, or a corporate policy document.
Let's dissect the SWOT analysis, because every management student knows it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It's a staple of every business school and corporate retreat.
Conceptually, it's just a prompt to examine 4 aspects of your business. But in practice, a SWOT analysis almost always materializes as a physical 2x2 grid drawn on a whiteboard or printed on a worksheet.
And that physical grid is not neutral.
Not at all. It actively organizes human attention. It visually separates internal factors, the strengths and weaknesses, from external factors, the opportunities and threats.
It makes them look like distinct, non-overlapping categories with hard borders.
So if I'm a manager leading a strategy session and my team brings up a massive technological shift in our industry, let's say it's a huge opportunity, but because of our outdated legacy systems, it's also a terrifying threat.
The physical boxes on that whiteboard grid force me into a corner.
You have to make a physical choice. You either pick one box and erase the nuance, or you redundantly write it twice, which clutters the visual space.
The grid makes it incredibly difficult to draw complex, fluid, or cyclical connections.
You only have so much space inside the square. The material constraints of the grid begin to shape the thought process it was merely supposed to represent.
It restricts certain ways of categorizing reality while affording others.
And it gets even more restrictive when we take that whiteboard and try to put it into a slide deck.
Oh, PowerPoint, the ultimate technological soft artifact. I have a buddy who works at a major management consulting firm, and he has a running joke. If an idea can't be put into a chevron graphic, the idea doesn't exist.
The joke hits close to home because it's grounded in materiality. A presentation software doesn't just neutrally display a pre-existing strategy.
The software's templates, its headings, its bullet points, its charts.
It's strictly linear sequence of slides. They constitute the strategy as a specific kind of object.
Walk me through that. How does the slide deck change the strategy itself?
Imagine a messy, nuanced, 3-hour debate among executives. There are caveats, uncertainties, highly conditional plans, but to communicate this, they have to compress it into a slide deck.
So the complex argument gets sliced into a linear progression.
Competing possibilities get flattened into neat columns on a comparison table. A subtle strategic priority gets transformed into a bolded, neon-colored text box.
The what fits the format becomes hypervisible.
And what doesn't fit the format, the messy gray areas, simply disappears.
The materialization requires selection, compression, and visual ordering. Now, the trade-off is that this gives the idea incredible durability and mobility, right?
Oh, definitely. That slide deck can be emailed to 10,000 employees across the globe in 1 second.
But it loses its context.
And here's the real kicker. That slide deck eventually becomes the official strategy.
Wow, the physical artifact outlives the human debate that produced it.
6 months later, an employee references the slides. They just see the bullet points. They don't see the compromises hidden behind the text.
So whether we are talking about a 200-pound sofa or a 2-megabyte PowerPoint template, these material arrangements are actively dictating how we work and what thoughts are actually permissible in the corporate record.
Yeah, but they aren't just static obstacles. Humans push back.
Right. How exactly do we interact with these objects over time?
To understand the dynamic interplay, we have to borrow a commercial distinction from the research regarding agency. In sociology and management theory, agency generally means the capacity for action,
Now, traditionally, we only focus on human agency.
which is our ability to form a goal and take steps to realize it.
Like, I want to build a house, so I buy a hammer. I have motivation and intent.
Exactly. But drawing from science and technology studies, the researchers introduced the concept of material agency.
Sometimes referred to as performativity in the literature.
Right. This is the capacity of non-human entities to act on their own, outside of complete or direct human control.
That sounds a little sci-fi, honestly. Give me a grounded example of material agency in an office.
It doesn't have to be a sentient robot. Think of a complex Excel macro running a massive data set, an algorithm dynamically adjusting pricing on an airline website, or a search engine crawling the web and indexing pages.
So the software has a capacity for action.
It is doing things, calculating things, sorting things in ways the human user is not directly controlling in real time.
So if I have human agency and my software has material agency, how do those two forces interact? Are they fighting each other?
The researchers use a brilliant architectural metaphor to explain this interaction: imbrication.
Imbrication. I've never heard that word outside of this research.
The word comes from ancient Roman roof construction.
Okay, break down the Roman roof for me.
To build a waterproof roof, the Romans used 2 distinct types of interlocking clay tiles. They had a flat tile, called the tegula, with raised edges, and they had a curved, semi-cylindrical tile called the imbrex.
Right.
You could not build a functioning roof with only flat tiles. The water would seep through the joints. And you couldn't build it with only curved tiles either.
They were distinct shapes with different properties.
But they were arranged in an overlapping interlocking pattern. The curved tile covered the gap between the flat tiles.
So they interlock to form an infrastructure that neither could achieve alone.
That's the mechanism. Just as those physical tiles imbricate to form a solid roof, human agency and material agency imbricate to create our organizational infrastructure.
Meeting our routines and our technologies.
The human and the machine don't magically melt into one indistinguishable soup. They maintain their distinct characteristics, but they overlap. They lean on each other to create something durable.
Let's ground this for the audience manager listening right now. Here's where it gets really interesting. How does this imbrication actually happen on a Tuesday afternoon when my team is trying to get work done?
It happens through the constant negotiation of affordances and constraints. When a human with a specific goal encounters a technology's material agency, they perceive that technology in one of 2 ways.
Right. If the technology restricts or hinders their goal, they perceive a constraint.
And if the technology presents a possibility for action that helps them achieve their goal, they perceive an affordance.
I want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this because this is huge. An affordance isn't just a physical button on a machine. It's not a feature in a vacuum. It's relational.
It is entirely relational. The classic example in the literature is a set of stairs.
Okay, the stairs.
If you have the goal of reaching the second floor and you can walk, the physical stairs afford you access.
But if you are in a wheelchair, those exact same physical stairs constrain your access.
The physical object didn't change its shape or properties at all. What it affords or constrains depends entirely on the physical capabilities and the goals of the human interacting with it.
So a heavy locked door constrains entry for a burglar, but affords security for the homeowner.
Exactly.
Let's walk through a specific scenario from the research to show how this dance of affordance and constraint actually changes a company's structure. The newsletter scenario.
Let's say you manage a team of community coordinators for a nonprofit organization. Your team has a human agency goal. They want to disseminate news to the community.
Makes sense.
They are given a basic, early-generation word processing software. That software possesses material agency.
And the imbrication of the team's goal and the software's capabilities creates a stable routine, right? Typing up simple text-based updates.
The flat tile overlaps with the curved tile. The roof is stable.
But then, the human goal shifts. My team looks at this boring text document and says, "This is dull. We want to make a visually appealing newsletter with catchy graphics and custom layouts."
They try to use the current software, but it refuses. It only renders plain text.
So the software's material agency is now perceived as a constraint. It is actively restricting their new human goal.
What does the team do?
Well, they could give up and change their goal back to plain text. Or they could change their routine, maybe deciding to print flyers instead. But in reality, they'd probably call IT and ask for better software.
Right. They decide to alter the technology, they get a plug-in installed, or they upgrade the software to include robust drawing and layout features.
Okay, let's pause there. The humans took their agency and imposed it on the material agency of the software, fundamentally changing the tool. They laid down a new tile.
That is a human-to-material implication. They change the technology to overcome a constraint, but the cycle doesn't stop.
The new features have their own agency now.
No, the software possesses new material agency. It can render complex graphics. The coordinators start playing with these new features.
They realize, wow, we can embed high-quality images and create stunning infographics.
This new material capability affords them the possibility of capturing a much wider, younger audience.
So, prompted by the software, they form a brand new human goal, expanding their readership base.
And to achieve that new goal, the whole structure of the team has to change.
We can't all just be typists anymore. If we're making infographics, someone needs to specialize in graphic design.
Someone else needs to focus on copywriting. Someone else needs to manage the layout.
The technology's new material agency has provoked a change in their human agency, which ultimately results in a fundamental change to their daily routines and the division of labor.
The team literally reorganizes itself because of the software plugin. That is a material-to-human imbrication.
So, as a manager, if my team is completely stuck on a project, I basically have two levers to pull. I either change the human routine or I change the software.
That is exactly the choice modern managers face every day. You are constantly monitoring whether your infrastructure is currently perceived as an affordance or a constraint.
If the team perceives a constraint, they will push to change the technology.
If they perceive an affordance, a new capability, they will likely adapt their routines to exploit it. It is an endless, alternating sequence of interlocking tiles.
We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us.
Right.
But there is a massive philosophical leap waiting for us in this next section, because the imbrication metaphor assumes that the human and the tool are distinct, separate tiles.
We overlap, but we are fundamentally different things.
Right. So what happens when the distinction between the human and the artifact completely collapses?
This brings us to Wanda Orlikowski's profound concept of constitutive entanglement.
Constitutive entanglement. What does that mean in practice?
While the imbrication metaphor is highly useful for tracking deliberate step-by-step changes, Orlikowski argues that in everyday practice, social organization and materiality cannot be separated cleanly at all.
There is no purely social interaction, and there is no purely material object.
They are completely, inextricably bound together. They enact each other in practice.
They constitute or make up each other.
Yes. Think about the rise of generative artificial intelligence. Think about technological soft artifacts like ChatGPT or even complex algorithmic trading software.
These systems make this entanglement undeniably visible.
This is the ultimate dilemma for anyone managing knowledge workers right now.
Let's say I need to write a highly sensitive new remote work policy for my department. I open an AI interface. I type the prompt. Draft a strict but empathetic remote work policy.
The AI generates a 500-word draft.
I read it, I revise a few sentences to make it sound more like me, and I email it to the whole company. The multi-million-dollar question is, who authored that policy?
It is a deeply unsettling question for traditional management theory. Who produced it? You, the manager, formulated the intent.
I provided the initial constraints in the prompt, I judged the output, and I clicked send.
But the AI system generated the actual syntax, the structure, and the vocabulary based on its underlying algorithms.
Furthermore, the user interface designed by the software company shaped how I could even interact with it.
Your company's IT security policies dictated what proprietary data you were even allowed to feed into the prompt.
A vast, invisible network of data centers, fiber optic cables, and electricity made the split-second calculation possible.
And crucially, the AI's training data consists of millions of human texts written by people you will never meet.
So it's a massive web. The text wasn't produced by me, and it wasn't produced by the machine. It emerged through this incredibly dense human-AI arrangement.
ChatGPT blurs the boundary between the human actor and the non-human actor to the point where separating them is impossible. The text is a socio-material product.
If you had used a slightly different prompt or different language model, or if the server had timed out, a different reality would have been produced.
The agency is completely distributed across the network.
But wait, let's think about this from a manager's perspective. If the agency is distributed, if this policy is a giant socio-material soup, who gets fired if the policy is accidentally discriminatory and causes a mass employee walkout?
Can a manager just shrug and say, hey, I didn't write it, the system made me do it?
Exactly. Can they?
Absolutely not. And the researchers emphasize this heavily. Recognizing that production is distributed does not dilute or remove managerial responsibility.
Materiality explains how action occurs. It does not excuse it.
Accountability shifts from who typed the words to who selected the system, who configured the constraints, who blindly trusted the output, and who ultimately authorized the action.
Understanding constitutive entanglement should actually deepen a manager's accountability. It requires them to rigorously audit the tools they are unleashing, rather than using the machine as a scapegoat.
That is a crucial distinction. And to further illustrate this entanglement, the research points to search engines. Let's look at Google Search.
Most people think of a search engine as a digital librarian, like a neutral, objective tool that goes into the stacks and retrieves a static, unchanging reality.
It is the furthest thing from a neutral librarian. Take the foundational PageRank algorithm.
It computes a rank for every web page by analyzing incoming links, right? Weighting them by the status and popularity of the linking sites.
Because the entire web, human behavior, commerce, news changes every single second, the algorithm is continually calculating and updating.
A Google search is not a snapshot of a static world.
It is a dynamic, temporally emergent socio-material assemblage. The reality you are presented with at 9:00 a.m. will be subtly different than the reality you see at 9:00 p.m.
And it isn't just about time. It's about geography and rules. The source material uses the Great Firewall of China as a case study here.
And it illustrates how a search algorithm doesn't just neutrally index reality. It is deeply entangled with regional geopolitics.
The search results are curated by the political rules of wherever the server sits and whoever controls the network.
The algorithm is entangled with censorship protocols that restrict access to specific historical events or sensitive terms.
A citizen searching for a piece of history in one country experiences a completely different set of facts than a citizen typing the exact same keystrokes in another country.
The material algorithm and the social laws entangle to actively construct different realities for different users.
That makes me look at my own daily Google searches completely differently. There is no objective result. I am getting a highly curated reality shaped by my past clicks, the algorithm's design, and the physical location of my IP address.
And this kind of entanglement happens on a microscale in our pockets, too. Think about the BlackBerry effect or modern push email on smartphones.
How does that specific physical artifact entangle with corporate culture?
Well, it destroys the boundary between the office and the home.
You have an organization that proudly espouses family-friendly corporate values. The CEO talks about work-life balance.
But they hand every manager a smartphone that physically buzzes and pushes emails to the screen at 10:00 p.m.
The physical artifact affords immediate, ubiquitous communication.
And that material affordance comes into direct conflict with the espoused social values.
Because the device makes constant connection so frictionless, It breeds an unspoken collective expectation of constant responsiveness.
An individual manager might want to disconnect and spend time with their family, but they are trapped by the expectations of the socio-material network.
The vibrating phone on the nightstand completely overrides the family-friendly mission statement.
It proves that the espoused culture is often powerless against the socio-material practice. The artifact wins.
So if our tools are this deeply entangled with our daily actions, our corporate cultures, and our realities, it raises a massive practical question for the audience managers listening.
How do you deliberately harness these tools to enact positive change across a whole team without accidentally destroying the dynamic?
How do you actually deploy software the right way? The expert here leans heavily into Leonardi's research on driving network change.
And the core lesson is a tough pill to swallow for IT departments. It is not enough to just buy an expensive software package and drop it into the office.
The change doesn't come from the system itself, right?
It comes from how specific features of that system are appropriated by the users. Information technologies in the modern workplace are incredibly complex.
A single platform might have hundreds of features. Users can choose to engage with different features independently or ignore them entirely.
Leonardi breaks down how a team uses a tool into 3 distinct levels of affordances. Understanding these is the key to actual organizational change.
Let's break those down. Level 1, the individualized affordance.
An individualized affordance occurs when one person uses a specific feature of the software to accomplish a unique goal that benefits them, but isn't shared by the rest of the group.
Say you implement a massive new CRM, a customer relationship management platform.
One highly ambitious sales rep dives into the settings and figures out how to use the advanced macro features to automate all of their daily reporting.
They save hours of time, their metrics shoot up, and they get a bonus.
But the rest of the sales team is just using the CRM as a basic address book.
Exactly. The individual gained personal status and efficiency, but the broader network, how the team communicates, how they share advice, how they collaborate, remains exactly the same.
The organizational structure didn't shift an inch.
Level 2 is the collective affordance.
A collective affordance happens when members of a group use different features of the same system to accomplish highly specialized individual tasks, which are later pooled together to meet a group goal.
There is unity, but it's unity in diversity.
Imagine a marketing department launching a campaign. One person uses the software's design suite to make graphics. Another uses the analytics dashboard to monitor web traffic. Another uses the database query tool to pull mailing lists.
They are all logged into the same platform, but they are experiencing completely different material realities.
Right. They are engaged in pooled interdependence. The work gets done, but they aren't fundamentally changing how they interact with each other.
Which works fine for a marketing team divvying up tasks. But what if the team is highly interdependent?
What if it's a team of structural engineers designing a bridge, where every tiny decision one engineer makes instantly affects the physics of what the next engineer is doing?
That brings us to level 3, the holy grail for change management, the shared affordance.
A shared affordance occurs when everyone in an interdependent group converges on the same appropriation of a feature.
They all gain access to the exact same new capability or the same new stream of information.
And here is Leonardi's major insight for any manager listening. If your team's work is highly interdependent, throwing a new technology at them will not change the informal advice network or the organizational structure unless they achieve a shared affordance.
Unless everyone uses the exact same feature in the exact same way, the network refuses to change. Why is the threshold for collective action so rigid?
Because changing a social network requires a systematic shift in the flow of information. If only one engineer knows how to use the advanced simulation feature, everyone else just keeps asking the senior engineer for advice the old-fashioned way.
The old advice network stays completely intact.
But if the manager ensures that every engineer learns to use the simulation feature to share their daily results, suddenly everyone has access to a new, shared reality.
They start talking to different people. Junior engineers can verify their own work without asking the senior engineers.
The technology only becomes a true resource for change when its use is negotiated, standardized, and shared by the collective.
Let me put this in an analogy. It's like a multiplayer video game.
I love this analogy.
If you drop a new, incredibly powerful weapon into the game, but only one player figures out how to use it, the overall strategy of the team doesn't change. You just have one overpowered player.
Right.
But if you teach the entire team how to use the new communication map feature simultaneously, the entire way the team coordinates and moves across the battlefield changes overnight.
That is a perfect parallel. So what does this mean for the manager who just spent $1 million on enterprise software?
It means implementation is not a one-day training seminar. It is not just persuading people to log in.
Implementation is the active, ongoing shepherding of the imbrication process.
You have to watch them like a hawk.
You have to monitor how they are using the features. Are they diverging? Are they just using the $1 million software to recreate their old, inefficient routines?
If they are, your investment is wasted.
You have to foster an environment where the team debates, discovers, and eventually converges on a common pattern of feature use. You have to guide them to the shared affordance.
Which requires paying obsessive attention to the mundane day-to-day interactions with the physical and digital tools.
And that is incredibly hard because human beings are wired to ignore this stuff.
Which brings us to our final topic: power, maintenance, and physical realities. When materiality works perfectly, it turns invisible.
We don't notice the infrastructure until it fails. You don't think about the structural integrity of the floorboards until one groans under your weight.
You don't think about the company's Wi-Fi router until the internet drops, and suddenly a bustling office of 100 people is paralyzed.
Breakdowns expose our deep, total dependencies on the material web, and this exposes the unsung hero of the organizational world: maintenance.
Maintenance. It is not a sexy word in business. It doesn't get you a TED Talk, doesn't put you on the cover of Forbes.
No, the glory always goes to innovation and strategy.
But cleaning the physical spaces, updating the server firewalls, repairing the delivery trucks, debugging the legacy code, this is the central, vital work of any organization.
Its entire contribution is preventative. It exists to stop the breakdowns that would expose how fragile the whole system truly is.
A materiality perspective demands that we stop treating maintenance as a low-status afterthought.
The glamorous innovation and the mundane repair are equally vital components of the same socio-material arrangement.
And it's not just about keeping the lights on. Materiality quietly, invisibly distributes power and participation across an organization.
It dictates who gets to speak and who gets to decide, often without a single word being spoken.
If we look at the broader implications, material arrangements operate as an impersonal form of authority. Think about your own office.
An electronic access card opens the executive suites on the top floor, but locks out the entry-level employees.
A long rectangular boardroom table makes the CEO sitting at the head the physical center of gravity, while naturally marginalizing the people sitting at the far ends.
Accessible architectural design dictates whether certain physical bodies are even allowed into a space.
Or consider the software systems your company uses for HR or accounting. A required drop-down field in a reporting software physically limits what kind of explanations an employee can enter into the official corporate record.
If your nuanced problem doesn't fit into one of the pre-programmed categories, your problem effectively ceases to exist in the eyes of the organization.
These arrangements appear entirely neutral. The software program doesn't have a personal vendetta against the employee.
The stairs aren't maliciously plotting to exclude someone in a wheelchair.
Yet their physical design actively distributes possibilities. They include and exclude without anyone in HR ever having to issue a formal, written prohibition.
A simple default setting in a communication app can make one workflow the frictionless norm and make alternative workflows so burdensome that employees just give up.
The managerial issue is not whether material arrangements have power. They inevitably constantly do.
The critical question for leadership is, whose purposes do these arrangements currently support, and who holds the authority to modify them?
Which ties perfectly into the grandest physical reality any company has to face: sustainability and the natural world.
We talked about the IKEA couches earlier, but looking at environmental strategy broadly, corporations love their conceptual artifacts.
They love making pledges, setting carbon targets, and publishing glossy ESG environmental, social, and governance reports.
But a report is just words on paper or pixels on a screen. Actual measurable consequences to the natural planet only change when material arrangements change.
You can draft all the sustainability commitments you want, but unless you physically alter your logistics networks, replace your energy systems, redesign the chemical durability of your products, and change your raw material sourcing, absolutely nothing happens to the environment.
It is the ultimate reality check for leadership. Materiality forces corporate strategy to drop the buzzwords and face the physical laws of the universe.
It asks a devastatingly simple question. Does this organization actually possess the physical infrastructure capable of enacting its stated ambitions?
If the answer is no, the strategy is just an illusion. It separates the organizations that are merely talking from the organizations that are actually doing.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's briefly recap this journey so our listeners can carry these tools forward.
We started by shattering the illusion that management is just people talking to people or lines drawn on a whiteboard.
From the ergonomic chair you sit in, to the 4 physical boxes of a SWOT analysis, to the algorithmic AI drafting your company policies, Materiality is an active, persistent participant in your organization.
It affords and constrains your choices. It imbricates with your goals to create the infrastructure of your daily work.
It blurs the boundaries between human agency and machine action.
And it dictates whether your new, expensive software implementation will actually revolutionize your team's network or just create a bunch of isolated, individualized workflows.
So before we sign off, what is a final provocative thought our listeners can mull over as they head back into the muddy waters of their own workplaces?
I want you to look around your workspace right now. Look past the people.
Just find an object.
Identify just one invisible artifact, perhaps a default setting in your company's project management software or the physical layout of your department's floor plan that is quietly dictating your team's behavior without anyone realizing it.
Okay.
If you somehow completely change that one material thing tomorrow, how would your human organization be forced to adapt?
That is a phenomenal question. It reminds me of the whiteboard reorganization we talked about. You can draw all the new reporting lines you want, but if you don't change the physical desks, the default software settings, and the heavy hotel key fobs of your daily operations, you haven't really changed the company at all.
You really haven't.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you never look at a PowerPoint slide, an office chair, or a simple brass weight the exact same way again.